escorting us. Some good photo ops for you guys.
How you doing, Daniel?
Hey, Daniel, nice to meet you.
William, how you doing?
William, pleasure. So we're going to give you guys an opportunity right now to take a picture. I know it's been pretty hard. Hand up. Hello, buddy. Nice to meet you. So come on in, guys. Yeah. Jump on in. Perfect. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Star Wars. All right, one more pose. 1, 2, 3. Boba Fett. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. No disintegrations, all right? No disintegration, guys. What's up, guys? I'm Daniel Logan. I was the, I guess, baby Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones many, many moons ago in a galaxy far, far away. I know I don't look so much of a baby anymore. I realized I could grow hair on my face. And I just continue to grow it. I was actually also in the Clone Wars. I got to reprise my role almost 6 years ago. I finished doing that. I did 5 years on the Clone Wars, which was actually a really amazing opportunity. So not only the way I got into the movie Star Wars was thanks to George Lucas, but I also got the opportunity to be in the Clone Wars. And I thought that the Clone Wars, I used to see this guy Dave Filoni everywhere I go. And it just happened to be the greatest timing. I would always meet him at the restaurant or like a store where he's buying a soda or something. And I would slip him back, hey, I got his meal. I got it. And then I would look at my bank account thinking, man, can I afford that meal right now? I got it. So I'd buy him anytime I see him a meal or whatever I could, kind of bribing to try and get myself a job. Because I realized how great the Clone Wars was. And I became a fan of it after watching the first season. So when I got the call for coming back in the Clone Wars, I remember going to Dave Filoni, you know, man, I didn't realize that all that bribing and buying me those meals would actually paid off. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, you put me back in the Clone Wars because I bought you all those meals, right? He's like, no. We couldn't figure out where to go with the story of Star Wars. So George Lucas actually came into the storyboard room, opened the door, and just said, I want Boba Fett in the Clone Wars. Call Daniel Logan. I mean, that's like God calling you to heaven twice. You know, you're like, I'm coming back, Father. You know, like, it truly was the biggest blessing. But going into that world, I'm a very energetic, I move and I take you on the adventure and the story through body movement. Where in this cartoon, you don't have the opportunity to move or look that way at this guy because everything has to be into the microphone. Isn't into the microphone and start to sound a little like this and a little like that, you know, and you lose the power of the voice. So you have to stay on the microphone the whole entire time. But I wasn't smart enough to realize that I should just go in my pajamas because they're like the softest, non-scratchy clothes that I have. I went in this nice shirt, you know, jeans, a big buckle belt. So as I'm moving, my buckle's going ching, 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 and my shirt's going ching. And they're like, oh, stop moving, Daniel, stop moving. So I literally had to sit there in the booth, this one thing, almost like in a restraint jacket, just trying to say the words so I didn't make any extra sounds. And that's truly how amazing these voice actors are, to be able to project a character just through a voice and project you into a whole new world and make you go along with these stories and these characters. It isn't easy at all. It's very hard. And the fact is I came off the movie, not many people came from the movie and transitioned over to the Clone Wars or the Rebels or anything like that. So it was a blessing just in that as well. I was 13 when I got into Star Wars. I looked like I was like an 8 to 10-year-old. Yeah, it's crazy. So I didn't realize what Star Wars was when I got in the film. When I got into the movie, I was just a little New Zealander and I played rugby. That was my dream, my passion, everything I lived for. So everything that I thought I was going to be was to be an All Black or a rugby player for my country. Well, what happened was an audition came at my rugby club. My coach was allowed to put down 2 names. He put down my name and his son's name for a milk commercial. I walk in this room, right? I'm all of like 11 years old, 9 years old. And as soon as I walk in the room, you hear this lady go, he's too white. And I'm like, what is this? That's pretty racist, you know, with my New Zealand accent, you know?
Right.
Well, what happened was I was meant to be playing a very famous rugby player from the All Blacks in this milk commercial, but he's a full Samoan and I'm only quarter. So you definitely, it's like me trying to play The Rock, you know? So I kind of understood now, but they really liked me, you know? And they're like, hey, he's kind of cool. So what they did was they asked me if I was able to dive into like the floor, like I was diving into a big puddle of mud. So I'd been playing rugby all my life. I'm like, yeah, of course. I literally jumped off my feet and dove into the ground as if it was like a pool that I was diving into. And you just hear the lady like, ooh, that's great. And that's really, truly how I got my first job. So I went along and I got the milk commercial, and I was playing the white guy, not the brown guy. And I jumped into the mud, and this lady from the commercial went over to my mother and said, man, your kid has got some talent. I guess I was really good at diving into a mud puddle. And he's like, can I get your son some more work? So my mom was raising us all on welfare. She had 6 kids. You couldn't imagine. It was like she just hit the lotto. You know, she said, more work? Yeah, give him as much work as you can. I mean, we don't have the child labor laws in New Zealand, you know. As long as you can walk and move, you're working, you know. So she started she started having me work. How do you like that? My mom started pimping me out to the film business. So I started doing more and more work. Thanks to this lady called Pip Grove from this agency called Saatchi & Saatchi. But because she was in Australia, she couldn't represent me in New Zealand. So she said, hey, look, really love you. You're getting too much work. What we're going to do is get you an agent. And she actually found me my agent, whose name was Eunice. When I met Eunice, she fell in love with me. I mean, I was 9 to 11, I think. Well, I was with her till I was almost 15. But from 9 to 11, she would fit me in any role. Like, if there was a role that was going on and the kid was like 5 years old, she's like, Dad, you never know. Just go along for it. The guy's like 35, you know? I'm like, not even high squeaky pitched voice, you know? He's like, just go for it, you know? Like, it didn't matter what it was. She just tried to fit me in any role. But it was weird because 9 times out of 10, I was coming back with the role. And she was like, what the heck? Like, you got the role. And they would just rechange the role because, I don't know, I just talked the guy's ear off all day. To the point he's like, just give him a job. Get him out of here. So, that's how my acting started. And then Eunice, she called me one day. I mean, I've been booking everything. I was in Hercules, Shortland Street, which was the biggest TV show in New Zealand. I mean, it's kind of like one of the ER shows here.
Right.
It was big. When you were in Shortland Street, you made it in New Zealand. You know, every famous New Zealander has been on Shortland Street. So I get a call, and this lady can barely breathe. You know, she calls me every other day, like, hey, Daniel, I got an audition. I'll be sending you the script, you know, make sure you learn the lines, get it back to me, no problem. She called me this one day and she said, oh my God, you know, you're not going to believe it. Oh, Daniel, oh my. She couldn't even speak, right? And I'm like, what? Eunice, slow down, what's up? She's like, I got you an audition. And I'm like, what? Like, you send me auditions every other day, like, what the heck? She's like, no, Daniel, I got you an audition for Star Wars. What? What's Star Wars? You know, I'm like, okay. New Zealanders, right? I grew up in the time where we had 3 TV channels. That's it. There was no cable. There was no extended, like, you were lucky if you could afford a VHS. So at 11:45, a little Kiwi bird would come on my TV channel, on a TV, and it would literally wish the whole country good night. It would be like, good night, New Zealand. And the TV would go, and it was pixelated colors. I don't know if any of you ever had that struggle or that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're like, how old are you, kid? I'm like, yeah, New Zealand, we're like 20,000 years behind the rest of the world. So Star Wars never came on. You got to remember, too, I grew up in the episodes of 6 and 1. There was 16 years of no Star Wars. Absolutely none. Besides comics or expanding universes or fan-based novels. So I had no clue of what this movie was or what this franchise was. So I tell her, hey, look, I'll go get it. And she's like, no, you ain't getting this. She's like, trust me. Like, she humbleized me real quick. She's like, Daniel, that's not it. She says, you don't understand. For the rest of your life, I am going to be able to pitch and sell you as the kid that auditioned to be the kid in Star Wars. I'm like, what? I didn't get it, right? I didn't realize that even if I didn't get this film, I would have always forever been able to tell the people that I auditioned for this movie Star Wars, which is an honor in itself, right? So about 3 months go by. Oh, I go into this room, into this hotel room, and they stop my mom and my nana at the door, and they're like, no, your son, the boy only. I'm like, oh man, okay. So I go in, and there's a lady there sitting in a nice hotel room with a camera. So I end up sitting there telling her and talking to her about myself. But meanwhile, I had just been out to see a VHS of episode 1, and I just saw Darth Maul, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be a Jedi. So I walked in this room prepared with my lies and my wits. So she asked me if I had any special talents. And at this point in time, I'm like, oh, yes, that's the time. So in New Zealand, we have something that we used to fight with. It was called a taiaha. And my native people used to fight one-on-one combat. And it's basically the double-handed lightsaber, but a big stick that's been carved and has like a spear kind of ending on both ends where we would kill each other with. Crazy savages. So I pretended like I knew how to do the taiaha because I thought I was going to be the next Ray Park. So I was pretty witty, and I'm like, look, they're not going to have a broomstick in this whole entire hotel. It's a 5-star hotel, right? I was like, hey, so if you've got a broomstick, I can show you. You know, with my little accent. Probably the best and the worst thing I could have done. I didn't realize Star Wars was all about imagination and imagery and creation. Well, she says, Daniel, this is Star Wars. Just pretend like you have one in your hand. Dang it. So I'm running around this room like the Star Wars kid on YouTube, like, pretending like I've got this thing in my hand, like, wah, 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 wah. And she's just sitting there laughing while videotaping me the whole time. It was the most funniest thing ever. I mean, I could not, I want to see the videotape so I can see what the Star Wars kid was mocking me on and how he became so famous. So 3 months go by, and I figured I'm not going to get this role. My big brother, he was playing, we used to play Grand Theft Auto. So I would go around and I would steal the cars, take the cars with the little ladies and do all the bad stuff, where my brother was all about missions. That's why I guess ADHD, A-mine, probably not the best two people to be playing video games together. So instead of beating me one day to get the control off me, he just tells me, hey man, I gotta tell you something. I'm like, what? He goes, hey, you got Star Wars. And at that point in time, like, I literally threw the controller out of my hand and was like, what? So as I'm like, yes, to jump up to celebrate, like to go and be like, yeah, Mom, we won the lotto. You're never gonna have to work again. He calls me back in. He's like, hey, no, get back here. And I'm like, what? He's like, they actually don't want to tell you right now. And I'm like, what? How am I meant to do a movie if you don't tell me I'm actually gonna be in the film? And they're like, well, these Star Wars people, they think you have a big mouth, and they're a little worried you might tell their secret. And I'm like, what? They have a big mouth? And my brother's like, now I look at myself now, I'm like, now I see how these people told me. Keep your mouth quiet, boy. You can do that, you might be in the Clone Wars in 8 more years. So, yeah, that was kind of my introduction to the Star Wars world in both aspects. And it's been a kind of a ride. I wanted to use his word, hoot. I like that word. He's a good hoot, or it was a good hoot, I don't know. Kind of stuck and ingrained in my head. Does anyone have any questions? Perfect. You guys have a great day. No.
Did you do the close for the voices for the book that's Transformers as well?
I did some of them. D. Bradley Baker had already kind of been doing them, and then they asked me to come in and do some of the other voices. I think I did all the cadets. He just played one, which was, I think, Lucky. No, I was Lucky as Boba. I forgot which one he did.
His best friend?
Yeah, Jax, I think it was. So he did Jax, and I did all the rest.
Okay.
Just to kind of give it a little bit of a change, so it showed that all the clones weren't the same people. It's crazy. I talk Star Wars with my friends all day long now. Like, I got a friend, his name's probably a terrible name, but it's called Wasted Fed online. And we sit there and argue Star Wars all day. Like, a couple of months back, I'm like, dude, how cool would it be if I could make, like, we can make me the new Stormtrooper helmet, the new Stormtrooper armor from the new movie. He stops me right there. He's like, not possible. And I was like, what are you talking to me? He goes, you can never be a Stormtrooper. I was like, what? He's like, you can be Clone Trooper Cody, you can be this, Django, Boba, episode this, da-da. And he's like naming off all the Boba or anything to do with Django or Boba or all the Clone Troopers, but no Stormtroopers. And then he let me in and filled me in on the backstory of how the Clone Troopers and they were all wiped out after this war, and a few of them actually escaped and went to live their own lives. See what I'm talking about, guys? You guys are like, holy moly, I just put you to sleep, right? This is what I talk about, day to day. But then I got to find out about the Stormtroopers, how the Stormtroopers were made, and that they were actually young cadets that were, the Empire went to go and find these kids to train them to be, soldiers in the Empire. And this was a kid that only had 3 TV channels, and had to play outside in the bush just for fun. I just did a movie in China with the Green Power Ranger, Jason David Franks. It's called The Underdog Rises, and it's based upon a video game world that's called Dota and Leagues of Legends and stuff like that. There's these huge video games that we have no clue. There's all these different worlds out there, like conventions and these gaming worlds and other different worlds, like reptile worlds. That's what I'm into. That unless you're in it, you don't know that they exist. But this game Dota 2, last year they held a competition in Seattle, and the prize pool money was $16 million. 5 people to a team, and there's like 20 or 30 teams. And it's a prize pool, so it means the top 10 teams all split or divide the winnings of the 16 million. So you think like the 10th team will get maybe like 20,000 to spread between the players, and then the top team gets maybe 2 to 3 million by the end of as it's all been split. But they sell out arenas. I mean, these arenas like the Staples Center or the arenas here, you literally have no more seats. These kids literally go and watch these other kids sit on the floor of the arena and play these video games against each other. But this movie is based upon kind of like a Mighty Ducks version of the gaming world. It doesn't matter which way you come into a game or any sport or anything. If you have the heart and the passion, you can become the number 1 team. And I come from the team that's a little more spoiled. We have sponsors and all these other, like caterers and coaches and all these other things. And then you have the team that they're all playing in a friend's apartment, and they're eating, top of ramen and cheese sandwiches for lunch, and I've got a gourmet meal and I've got a chef, so you see the difference in the team. But just because you have all those perks doesn't mean you necessarily are going to win the competition. So the title of the movie is The Underdogs Rises. So you can tell that I was probably not on the team that won.
Well, I got a question. So on when you got the part and everything for Young Django, what was Young Django, Young Boba? I'm sorry.
No, Young Django 2. We're just gonna start that one now. That's my new petition.
There you go.
We're gonna make Daniel Logan Boba Fett. Now we're gonna make Django Fett Boba Fett.
There you go. Yeah,
I like it.
That works. To say, what was it like working with Morrison? I mean, as far as like, do you have any good stories or anything? Like, what was it like, kind of being like, the underling? Like...
He was wonderful, man. So growing up in New Zealand, as a Kiwi, as a New Zealander, there wasn't many of us that came off the island, right, and actually made it into Hollywood or into the world of acting. And he was one of those people. So we all knew who he was. We all looked up to him as kind of like this uncle, because we're all village people. So he's like becoming outer, although he's not that much older than us. You're like, no. But when he came in the room, I was so starstruck, because he was the only person I knew. I didn't know who Ewan McGregor was. I didn't know who Natalie Portman. But I knew who Temuera Morrison was, right? I'm like, oh, nice to meet you, sir. And as he's like, as I'm introducing myself like that, he's like, you're going to be playing my son? I'm going to be playing your dad. You call me dad, and I'll call you son. Okay, Dad. So it went from sir to dad real quick. But that's what allowed that powerful interaction between Django and Boba, was the fact that even offset, we were still together. We were dad and son, We were traveling the galaxy together when we were on set, and then when we were off set, we were traveling the set together. So I thought I had made the big time, right? Like, when you see the Hollywood star on the door, and you're like, with your name on it, you're like, made it, thank you, God. I'm on my way to the Grammys. Oscars. Which one is it? I haven't never
Oscars.
made one, because that's what I'm saying. I don't sing. So when you haven't got one, you don't know what they are.
Well, you just go goat and just don't, or EGOT. Go
Or
EGOT.
you could do, what's the last Lando?
Oh,
But he did incredible, and then he brought the America song out right there. He's like, he dropped it, dude. I should have dropped the single out before I was Boba, like, oh, I'm Boba, but hey,
Donald Glover. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Donald Glover. He's incredible. He's just a multitask man, multi-talented too. But so we were so father and son that when I saw the star, I was like, yes. So I walked in, and I got like a 2-seater couch, a clothes rack, and this huge table. I'll never forget it. And I remember sitting on my 2-seater couch and being like, oh, this is awesome. So then I went over to Tim's room. Well, Tim, he actually had contracts in SAG and unions who protected him. I just came from New Zealand, I was just happy to be there. So he has 2 rooms. One of his rooms is his bedroom. It's the most beautiful thing ever. Literally like a gorgeous bedroom that if you wanted to sleep and stay, hey, you can go and sleep in your own room. Meanwhile, I got a 2-seater couch. Then the other one, you go in the other room and he has, like when Lazy Boy just came out, you remember those big old leather couches that if you had one, you were cool?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he had the whole set, plus like a TV and a little mini fridge full of like sodas and snacks, right? I'm like, how did I get the short end of the stick? So what I did was I thought I would just hang out with him and use him to enjoy his Lazy Boy couches and his soda and his TV. So when I wasn't filming, I was hanging out in his room instead of my room because my room was kind of lame. Well, I didn't realize at the same time he was using me because this armor, it was actually cut from like a steel, I think aluminum or steel, but it was kind of heavier when it was all sat on. Plus, they had this very, very thick. What is the jacket? Flat.
Flat jacket.
Yeah. The jacket is also very, very heavy. So when he would lean into it, for him to get out, it would be very hard for him to be able to get out. So what I would do is I would just grab both arms and I'd help pull him out every day so that he was able to get out and then go back to set. Well, I realized that the soda and the TV and the couch wasn't as enjoyable as I thought it was going to be because there was so much more work involved having to pull Django Fett out of his couch every day. So on one of the last days of filming, they asked me to go in for eye line. And the eye line is basically like, if I've got a camera shot on me, you don't have to necessarily be behind the camera or in the eye line where the person needs to see. They can just put a stand in. But then the stand in is a different person, a different height, different everything, different emotion. So I try to be polite, and if I've got the time, I'll go and stand in, and I'll just do the stand in too, so that when it comes to reverse, hopefully they do that for me. So I went and stood in, and I was doing my eye line, but they now needed him like 20 minutes later. Well, I knew exactly where he was, but I wasn't going to tell them that. So they had all these little speakers in all the rooms, like old school, in the school, like, Daniel Logan, please come to the principal's office. Well, they had one of those, but it was all in all the studio rooms, so you knew what studio to go to at what time and that when you were being called, so they didn't have to have runners come get you all the time. Well, you could imagine, right? They're probably like, Django Fett to Studio 2. Django Fett to Studio 2. And there he is in his room, like, he's stuck because he can't get up, right? So like, hey, do you know where he is? I'm like, no, maybe, 20 minutes go by, might possibly be in his room. Well, there was 2 entryways into the room. There was a bedroom entry, which they checked, but they didn't go through the living room entry. So he was in the living room on the Lazy Boy couch, like kind of like slumped over, like, oh, like making these grunting, like angry noises. So he comes on, and he's like, where were you, boy? And I'm like, what? He's like, I was over there. I needed a hand up. Where were you? I was like, oh, man, I didn't have a clue. They asked me about you. I just told them you were in your room to go check. But yeah, he's funny. It was a good laugh that day. I was like, dude, that's your payback. I don't. And the worst thing is when I got the movie, they sat me down and they gave me this Darth Maul t-shirt and a book. And they're like, kid, this is who you're gonna be. Well, they used the right words. They didn't say who I am, who I'm going to be. So when I saw Jango Fett walk on set and they just give me this little blue jumpsuit, you know, it looks like I'm about ready to be a gas or, you know, a spaceship attendant, you know, I'm like, where's the rest of the armor? Jango Fett walks in, I'm like, isn't that meant to be me? No. I cried enough, they gave me a poncho though.
Sweet.
I was like, come on, give me something else. I need just one more piece. Now, actually, they gave me the poncho. That's just a funny story. So Hayden Christensen, we were doing the arena scene where they were tied to the poles. And Hayden Christensen, he comes up to me and he's like, hey, kid, I'm Hayden. Nice to meet you. Hi, nice to meet you. He's like, you've been doing a really great job. I'm like, oh, thanks. He's like, hey, kid, I got a little gift for you in my room. After this, come over to my room and I'll give it to you. You're like, look over at my mom like, stranger danger? Stranger danger? I got a little confused, you know? Once we're on the set, am I safe, you know? Am I at Neverland? So I go over, I'm just like, hey, I'm just gonna commit, you know? And I thought I was tough enough to take on Anakin at the time anyway. So I go over, and he opens the door, he's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, hey, how you doing? It's kind of like weird, because we only just really met, you know, right before then. He invites me in, and he's like, dude, do you have a PlayStation 1? And meanwhile, my mom raised 6 kids, so we did have a PlayStation 1, but it was the family's PlayStation 1. So when he asked me, do I have a PlayStation 1, I didn't technically lie, but I didn't technically tell the truth. So I said, well, I don't own a PlayStation 1, because my family owned it, right? So he gives it to me, and he gives me like 12 games. And he says, hey kid, you want to play my Dreamcast with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Well, he pulls this thing out of the box. And I'm like, well, where's this from? He's like, oh, my agent just sent it from America or from Canada or something like that, where we have the same prongs in America as they do in Australia, but you don't have the same voltage. So we run at like 110 volts here. They run at 220 straight out of the wall. So I knew this, and I'm like, hey, you need like the power pack to convert. He's like, no, it's okay. And he plugs it in, and puts in his game. I'm like, pushes the button, and goes, spoosh. It literally blows up from the power, and then just starts smoking. So we're sitting in his room. The smoke alarms are so sensitive that it sprayed down the whole entire room. I didn't realize I only had one suit. They didn't expect Boba Fett to get dirty. I mean, if you look at the pictures, they've literally stuffed like napkins and tissues in every single spot you could think a kid would get dirty when I wasn't on set. And then some poor lady would be like, okay, let's take the tissues off, you know, and be like 10-minute tissue taken off, you know. But so that next night, the poor wardrobe lady had to stay up and do my whole new costume. You couldn't imagine how mad she was, right? So I came to set after being refreshed the next day after a great night's sleep. Obviously, she was up all night. So you had to be signed. So, you know, it's the last adjustments of the fit of the suit. So I'd stand there and she would start sewing, and next minute I'd feel this, it's like, don't move, you know. So you're sitting there going, don't move. Oh, you're like, I told you not to move. You're like, I didn't move, you know. Now looking back at it so many years later, I'm like, I would have done the same thing. I would have been like, oh, sorry, are you on? Oh, I would have done every single stitch. But so then after that, George realized that he should really give me my extra piece of armor that I wanted from the beginning. We would not have had the problem if I would have had the poncho on. So he got a little bit of Django's leather, or the last of it that was left, cut a hole in the middle, threw it over my head and was like, there you go, kid, now you got a poncho. I'm like, no, I wanted a piece of the armor, like a gun or something. No, I got a poncho.
How many times do you have to shoot that
Dude, so that was crazy. As a 13-year-old kid, how do you tell it as a director to that kid, hey, so kid, your dad's gonna die and he's gonna get his head chopped off right in front of you? So he didn't. He literally forgot that scene. I was getting out of my wardrobe and he comes into the costuming and he says, where's my boba? You know, I guess we were all his props at the time and toys, and he came and collected me. So he's like, all right, put all the stuff on. So I had to put all the stuff back on, and on the way out, he just grabbed the helmet. And I follow him. He's like, okay, so we're going to be back in the arena, and there were some droids that are laying over there, and they've been blowing up, and you know, there's smoke rising to the sky. And I'm like, he's like, no, focus, kid. I just need you to hold a helmet. You know, I'm like, oh, smoke? So he gave me the helmet, and he asked me to kneel, but because he's a little older than me, he had to kneel on one knee. That's what I would do nowadays, too. But because I was so young and my knees were fresh, I kind of did a little potty squatty, you know, like I was squatting at a number 2 while holding the helmet to balance. So one shot. It's like, okay, thank you, very good. I got what I needed. Oh, he asked the camera guy, you got it? Okay, good. So I ended up going and watching it at the premiere. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay. And next minute, Mace Windu comes up, and he starts swinging at my dad, and next minute, whoosh, chops his head off. The whole entire theater went, oh! I was the only person in the theater to go, yes! Because I didn't know. You know, it was the biggest surprise for me. So when obviously it was funny because all of the reporters and stuff were actually in the back. So I was the first one they all ran to at the end of the movie to ask, why did you cheer when your dad got his head chopped off? And my little reply and answer was, well, now I'm the baddest bounty hunter in the galaxy. You know, but I figured it was going to be another Django and Boba in episode 3, you know, and like, you know, you got everyone on set, you know, behind the scenes, they're like, oh, kid, you do not have a clue. You're going to be in the next one, too. Like, so you're already like, oh, I'm going to be in episode 3? But then Samuel L. Jackson doesn't want to be killed by a punk kid, and I just happen to be that punk kid. Any more questions? Yes?
So, Star Wars fan base can be pretty toxic, right? You know, bros, everything. Did you ever face any backlash like that?
Oh, yeah. See, I grew up fighting my whole life. I have 2 big brothers, so I had to learn how to defend myself against them. They're big, too. So I didn't realize the world of social media. MySpace was just coming out, and I got myself a MySpace thinking I'll try and be like the rest of the world, and then I'd have these people like kind of talking trash on me. But like my buddy Jake Lloyd, instead of submerging, I would react. I'm like, oh yeah, you want to fight? Then come and meet me right here. You don't really do that when you're an actor, you know what I mean? I grew up as a savage, you know? So just as I was about to push return, you know, to send it, my manager would be just happen to, like, the gods or the angels would call him, like, Daniel's writing messages back. So he'd come in like, hey, no, don't do that, delete, get off of there. So I just withdrew from social media. Only the last 2 years I got on. And it wasn't like I got fed off of it. I think it was just the fact that I was so young and so, like, aggressive. It was the opposite. I think people expected to bully me, and then me be like, oh man, Star Wars ruined my life. And I'm like, Star Wars is the best thing in my life. You know what I mean? So if there's a few people that want to kind of, you know, be toxic on social media. I still get it today. And, you know, there's once in a while I just say thank you for your support or whatever to negative stuff, because you don't want to feed into it. But there's once in a while you kind of do right back. You know, like, you wonder, what are you doing with your day-to-day life that you just woke up this morning thinking, I'm going to write Daniel Logan and talk trash? Like, I have people that will write me messages and be like, you're just a kid. And I'm like, well, technically I'm a grown man now. But then they'll send me another picture with, like, this is the real Boba Fett with, you know, armor. And then another one with, like, you're just a little boy. And I'm like, you really took your time out of your day to go and screenshot things off the internet to write the message to just be negative to me. And I'm like, I don't understand. But they're not going to make me leave internet, I tell you. I'm not a leaver. I'll end up fighting before I leave. I'll go back to that savage again. That was a good question, though.
So, I know it's been put on hold, but there was talk of Boba Fett movie. Would you
know what?
Because I know Daniel Bullock's getting kind of old.
Yeah, no, Jeremy Bullock.
Jeremy, sorry.
I am not getting old. I hope I'm perfect. I was talking with Ian McDermott, and he said, Daniel, I was 30 years old when they put me in the prosthetics to be the emperor. I was like, oh, nice. He goes, yeah, but then I grew up and I grew into being the emperor. He's like, they no longer need to put the makeup on me. That was just last week. I love Ian. Ian's funny. But no, you know what? To be a tree swinging in the background, man, I would give a limb, I'd be a broken tree with just one limb, like, swing this way, all right. How hard? Okay, more this way. Star Wars changed my life, changed my family's life. And I would do anything for Star Wars, especially Boba Fett. I think now, the fact given that I know the passion of how Boba Fett was brought to life. Boba Fett wasn't just a character that was thrown out there, was given a great, exposure to this film. He was brought on by fans and really picked up by passionate people who really loved him. Some people that are more military were able to relate to him because when you're in as a soldier or in the army, you have a lot of different pockets. You are kind of like in your own armor at some points, you know what I mean? So he became very popular in that realm, and then when there was no Star Wars, he was one of the fan favorites that was written about in the expanded universe. So that's really what kept him alive. And if it wasn't for the fans pushing him and bringing him to life as much as they have, he would just have been another bounty hunter. I laugh and I say, people are like, do you think Boba Fett died in the Sarlacc pit? I say, Boba Fett is like Tupac Shakur. If the fans don't think he's dead, he's never dead. He'll keep bringing out singles or, create music. Like, I'll be doing bounties from the Sarlacc pit, I don't know. Boba just left another guy frozen in carbonite again, I'll just leave my frozen in carbonite trademark with a little signature. Boba was here.
Is there anyone geeking out about that you're at conventions?
It's funny. I just met one of the Backstreet Boys the other day, right? And we're just at the green room having lunch. Howie was sitting across the way from me, and somehow we just started talking. I'm like, hey man, how you doing? What's up? He's like, oh, you're here part of the gig? I'm like, yeah, I'm one of the actors. And he's like, oh, cool. I'm like, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm here with a band. I'm like, oh, a band? What's the name of your band? He's like, Backstreet? And I'm like, the Backstreet? And he's like, yeah, the Backstreet Boys. And I'm like, Backstreet's back? All right. I don't know why, but it came out of me, my nerve, And he's like, yeah. I'm like, that is really cool, man. And I sat there thinking, Backstreet Boy, oh, yes. Yeah, that was cool, but I think, because growing up, I guess, the way I did, I never really was exposed to very much. So I'd walk into a room with Ray Park, and he'd be like, dude, do you know that guy? Oh, you know that guy? And I'm like, He's like, man, that guy's this guy. You don't know that? I'm like, but no, there's been a lot of people. I think it's the way I try to engage with people is always positive. It's a 2-minute interaction, I believe. You can definitely make or break someone's vision and the way they perceive you in just that 2 minutes. And that's why I always try to stay positive, and try to come out and be a positive person, because within that 2 minutes, you could lose the whole entire, fan range just by a little moment of, Daniel Logan instead of Boba Fett. I go back home like, not just jokes. I love doing conventions, I really do. I have had such a fun time being able to be a part of them for so long. The fact is Boba Fett was, an okay-sized character in episode 2, but he wasn't Darth Vader, Darth Maul, all these huge iconic characters, but yet they still invite me to come to the conventions. And I'm like, I'll be there, It's just wonderful. Any more questions? Yeah.
Did you ever meet Dave Logan?
Yeah, so he's the one I bribed, I thought, to give me my job. So quite a few years back, I went to this one convention, and instead of sitting at the table, I would just walk the convention hall floors. So you'd be able to just meet me on the floor, not sign, take pictures for you for free, you know? But I didn't realize it was like a job. People pay you to come here. You actually meant to be behind the table instead of on the other side of the table. So people would just wait to see me in the crowd instead of when I was behind my table. So I didn't have a line. So Dave Filoni and his wife walked by me at this one convention, and I was sitting there finally because they were like, I'm going to train. I remember they would say to me, I'm going to chain you to the chair because I would always wander off. So the one time I sat there, because I was always wondering, there was no one there, Dave and his wife walked by, and they looked down and they saw Paul Bober, and they were like, we really need to donate to that kid. So they came and bought my autograph on a sympathy vote. I was like, damn. Like, hey, whatever way to get the money. Thank you, Mr. Filoni. I was like, no, what my reply was like, so you've actually employed me before this time. But yeah, he's a great guy. Very great guy. I hope that they bring some more cartoons of his visions back, because he had a really great vision. He was almost a George Lucas in the cartoon world of Star Wars, you know? He really was. I loved him. Dun, dun, dun.
What was it when they got both Oscar Isaacs and going on their first date for voice?
Was that the time I fall asleep again? I keep forgetting. Yes. She hasn't worked in a very long time. But she only ever calls for money. But the worst thing is, she never calls like, hey, happy birthday. It's like, hey, can I get some money? I'm like, it's my birthday. So? How is going on? You know what? To tell you the truth, though, I have been out seriously. It's been wonderful to be able to take care of them all. I do this, but I have, I've moved to the United States thanks to George Lucas. So and actually, Ewan McGregor. So I wrote them when I came here by myself at 15 years old. And I said, hey, George, I want to come live in America. Can you write me a letter for my immigration? He wrote me a handwritten letter from his own letterhead. And my lawyer at the time said, Daniel, this is going to take about 6 months. So you have to go home to your country of origin. And I was like, no! And she said, but after 6 months, we'll know if you're approved or not. And if you're approved, you can come right back. So I packed some of my stuff for a week. I went home, back to New Zealand for a day. I wasn't even there a day. And I get a call. You can come back. You've been approved. She was amazed. So the only thing I can think of is someone who worked in immigration always wanted George. Everyone wants George's autograph, right? They didn't care who the hell this kid from New Zealand, Daniel Logan, was. They were just like, George Lucas? Approved. Lunch break, push that kid through. He deserves it. So, that he really changed my life, and thanks to that, I love doing things with my hands. So I started just doing construction by myself, and then along the way, I picked up quite a few guys now. I have to pay them and get them organized when I'm not doing this kind of stuff. But so that also helps as well. I think the greatest thing about America is that you do have possibilities because we have such a large population, And I still got the dream. Every day I wake up, I'm living that dream. But what about another story? Christopher Lee. He was really cool. So I never really got to meet, there's a few of them I didn't really get to meet until the very end. And Christopher Lee was one of those guys. And the only reason I got to meet him was because my Nana, who's my grandmother, she came on set. And when she came on set, I could run wild. When my mom was on set, she would stare at me and I could feel these laser beams coming through this dark studio staring at me thinking, I'm going to kill you when we get home, boy. So my Nana, I would do anything for her. She used to call me son. She was more like my mother than my grandmother. I love the lady so very much. She taught me almost everything that I am today. So she looked over and saw Christopher Lee and was like, oh my God, son, do you know who that is? And I look over at a 13-year-old boy, I'm like, I don't know, some old man. Like, no, that's Christopher Lee. I was like, oh, cool, because she's from England. She had polio, so one of her legs was shorter than the other, or her legs were shorter than the other, so she had this really cute limp. Well, I would say it was cute. So she's like, can you take me over to go and introduce me then? And I'm like, I haven't even introduced myself, but Yo, my nana, so I'll do anything for you. So I walk on over, and my nana, she's like, kind of walks behind me. She's from England, you know? It was one of those times when polio was rapid. So she comes up. Yeah, those are the real struggles. We don't have to worry about those no more, hopefully. But she comes up, and they're having a meet and greet, and I'm like, hey, Mr. Lee, I'm Daniel Logan. I play bowling. He's like, yeah, great job, Greg, you know? So we start talking, or him and my nana start talking, and me and him start talking. And meanwhile, this is my nana's biggest crush, I guess. I didn't have a clue about this. So this was my only film that year, right? Star Wars, I was the only film I did that year. So when he says to me, my boy, is this your first film? I said, well, yes, sir, this is my very first film. Is this your very first film? He turns to me and he says, my boy, I have done over 150 films. As a 13-year-old boy, you did one film 1 year? I said, oh my God, you must be old. My mom calls me, she says basically like, I talk without thinking. I forgot the word, something thoughts. I got unfiltered thoughts or something like that. I just speak everything that comes through my head. So you just see the stature of this tower of man just like go thump, thump. So I realize this is my Nana's favorite crush. I'm like, I'm ruining this meet and greet right now. I'm like, oh, what? Like, because my Nana was like 51, 2 at the time. So I was hoping they were kind of around the same age because she was single, hoping maybe he was single. So I was like, 51, 52? And he's like, my boy, you have just made my day. So it was like in a relationship. I took him down, and then I brought him right back up. You know, I made him kind of feel a little like, I don't know. I kind of love this kid, but I don't know. You know? But yeah, that was a fun story with Christopher Lee. And then, you know, bless him now. But, I mean, you know, as a little kid, I thought he literally was 150 years old. You know? I'm like, people really do live on in Star Wars. I'll tell you another funny story, real quick. So, Ewan McGregor, right? My mom, when she wasn't, you know, on welfare, she was working. And to feed that Minnie Mouse, she was working a lot. So, Trainspotting had just come out at the time. And I didn't know what Trainspotting was, but my two big brothers were like, come sit with me and watch this movie. So I'm like, sure. Well, they just kept playing it and playing it and playing it to where my photographic memory ended up being able to remember the words. So I went into the makeup room. Don't watch this movie, by the way, kids. I wouldn't recommend it. I went into the makeup room, and I look over next to me, and the guy that went down the toilet is sitting right next to me. And I'm like, hey, you were in Trainspotting. And you should have seen the look on Ewan McGregor's face, like, how the hell have you seen Trainspotting? So I'm like, well, my mom, she's never really at home, and my brothers take care of me most of the time, but they let me watch whatever they're watching. So he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, and I started reciting all his lines to him. And then he was like, oh my God, kid, like, lucky they don't have child services in your country. I think they do now. After I told them about my upbringing, they're like, we definitely need to have social services, go to that country. But yeah, and then Ewan just became a wonderful person. Like that face that I did when I opened the door, I couldn't get that face right. So George, you know, as again unfiltered thoughts, George says to me, well, Daniel, I'm gonna need you to do a face like someone suspicious, like you don't know why they're here, but they're here, and yeah, you're just a little suspicious. So I'm like, I don't even know what the word suspicious means. I'm like just sitting there going, you know, don't want to sound like a dummy, like, yes, Mr. Lucas. So I turned to him, I'm like, are you talking about like kind of like if a police officer came to my house looking for my brother? He looked at me like, what the hell, kid? No, like, who do I have working for me? You know, background check this kid. So Ewan pulls me aside and he's like, Daniel, can you do a face like I did a very smelly fart? And I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, just do that face and I think it'd be perfect. I said, okay, cool. Open the door, I go. I did it too perfect. So George starts laughing. Ewan spits up laughing in my face. I have no clue what I've done wrong. Meanwhile, my mom came to sit with me that day. You remember when I told you about the laser beam eyeballs you could feel through that dark studio? That was the day that I could sense the dark side was in that studio. I'm trying to have fun, you know? I remember at one point just kind of looking at you and kind of begging him to stop being a child, because I'm thinking in my head, like, I have to go home with that woman. She's gonna beat me. It's like Pumbaa, you know, from Lion King. She's trying to eat me! So, yeah, I go to the monitor and I'm like, hey, so, isn't that what you wanted, George? George is like, yeah. Rewinds the tape, plays it again, and he goes, now watch your nostrils. And like, as I open the door, straight away I open the door, I'm like, and you just see my nostrils move up and down. He's like, dude, I want everything besides the nostrils. So I kept trying to do it without the nostrils, but every single time I walk the door, you won't be like, so I'm like, bah! And I'll laugh. Meanwhile, remember the red eyeballs? Yeah. So then me and you became really good friends after that. When I wasn't hanging out with my dad, or Django Fett, I was hanging out with Ewan. So you and I used to be able to drive the golf carts for everybody. So if you wanted to go anywhere, Daniel Logan was your driver. I was your man, you know. We barely had a car at our house. I finally get to drive, you know. Take advantage of this while they're letting me. So I'm like driving the golf cart like, where do you want to go? Okay, I'll take you. So I would drive them everywhere, right? Ewan and I, we got sick and tired of it going slow because they had this little, or like not a little, but it was like a bolt that they had welded to the cart so that it couldn't go the full speed. But it was a really terrible weld job. So me and Ewan just kind of kicked it off and broke the thing, and so it would actually go full speed. So he comes flying down. There's these big studio buildings, and like there's this little dip in the driveway. So he comes flying down. He's like, watch this, kid. He takes it all the way up, comes speeding down, hits the little the little downhill, and as he gets to the bottom, just hits the brake and goes. Dude, that's like the coolest thing ever for a 13-year-old. I'm like, oh, my turn. He's like, come on, kid. You know, coolest big brother ever, dude. If he was on a Big Brother, Little Brother program, he would be the coolest guy ever. I don't know how safe he would be. So I jump in. As I jump in, you hear, get out of that car. I'm like, can't be talking to me. So, like, get that kid out of that car now. And I'm like, what? So I guess because America, you guys have these things called lawsuits. In New Zealand, you get hurt, you just roll them off your land, you know, and tell them to go home. Let your mom deal with it, boy. Go home. Go take a bath. A hot bath will help your broken leg. So I wasn't allowed to drive the go-kart after that. And I still had like a couple weeks, maybe almost a month left on set. So I just started doing this pouty face, you know, like every time I was like, because I wanted to drive the go-karts again. You know, as a little kid, I just wanted to get another ride. So Ewan, I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. Ewan, on my last day of filming, they all clapped and celebrated me, and like, you know, that's what they do for everyone who leaves or whatever, and they did this big celebration in the studio, like, yeah, thank you, everybody, and everyone came, hugs, claps, and Ewan comes up to me, he's like, when do you go home? And I said, tomorrow. I was leaving about 9 o'clock in the morning, my flight. So he says, all right, perfect, meet me at the studio at 5 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, sure. Because we'd been hanging out the whole time. So my driver picks me and my mom up, we go to the studio, and he's sitting in front of the studio in the golf cart with the lights on because it's pitch black dark at 5 o'clock in the morning in his robe. And me and him drive around the back lot of the studio for about an hour, just driving I got to drive Obi-Wan around the studio for about an hour, you know? I mean, that's what kind of person he is. He did not have to give up his morning. He didn't even have to think about me, you know? But he still did. And that morning he was sitting there in the golf cart. And we drove around Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi together, you know? 1 minute I'm shooting at him from Slave One, and the next minute I'm hanging out with him in a golf cart. So I just saw him actually at the premiere, and the solo premiere, and I'm like, hey Ray, what's up? Hey Peter, what's up? Hey Sam, what's going on? And then Ray turns to me, he's like, I'm like, what? He's like, because he doesn't want to say it. He's sitting right next to him, right? And for some weird reason, I'm like, did you just say Ewan McGregor? And as I thought in my head, I look over and there's Ewan McGregor. And just like 15 years ago, I just walked right up, hey Ewan, how you doing? He's like, oh, what's going on, kid? And then he started telling this manager or his agent, like, oh man, me and this kid, like, he did this fart face and this, and I'm like, oh man, da da da. I'm like, I've been telling these stories at conventions for years. I was like, and you actually, you brought it to life that I'm not lying about all this stuff. Because I could make up all these stories, like, I think about this, I'm like, dude, I could probably make up a story or two, But when people, what is the word I'm looking for? Like, they actually, when I tell my stories and they say that they're true, or they say the story too.
They validate it.
Validate,
Yeah.
see? Stay in school, kids. Stay in school. Any more questions, guys? Yes? You know what? They made me sit and watch in the studio the original 3 to try and get some creative inspiration of Boba Fett. So I watched the first one, I'm like, where is he? The second one, I'm like, was that him? And the third one, I'm like, was this character even in the movie? So when I ran back and rewatched them all, he was such a small bit of it all. I'm like, what the? But because we were on PAL and you guys we're on the PAL system and you guys are on the NTSC system or something like that. They're 2 different versions. So I couldn't take any movies back because they wouldn't work on my systems. Though they did send me a whole bunch of Star Wars toys. So they would send me these boxes. These boxes would come. I was more fascinated with the label because the label would show how much they spent on shipping. And I would pull out these shipping prices like $600 to $800 just to send me these boxes of just every single thing made in the past of Star Wars. So I started collecting them all, and I stuck them in every single closet, shelf, drawer, my mom's room, your room, anywhere I could stick them. And I left them all in their boxes, all in mint condition. Well, when I left at 15, I didn't think about bringing my collection with me. My little sister was 9 years younger than me. She's just going through a toy stage. So she goes in my room, in the closet, in your room, in everyone's room, and she starts opening up every single one. Well, my mom wasn't educated that well either, as we very much found out from my Q&A today. And she threw them all away when they would lose like a gun or my sister would break the leg, not realizing that I actually had some of the most exclusive of the exclusives because all of my boxes were from Lucasfilm. So there's actually 2 types of toys that they produce. They produce the Lucasfilm license range, which are sold at the ranch or sold only to the cast or the crew. And then they have the ones that you can get at Hasbro and everything else. But the ones that I had all these special serial barcodes, which if a toy or a figure was, say, $40, this figure was like $60, $65, only because they only produce so many of the Lucasfilm ones. And my little sister, I love her to death, still do to today. But I could have put my kid through college and helped to bury me and put me in the ground. Tell you what, every day I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I just wish. And I'm not talking about my mom. No, just jokes. Glad my mom doesn't watch any of these interviews. I'd be getting a call all the time. You said this about me? Wait till you get home, boy. I'm gonna beat you and you'll go to your room.
We got time for one more. So
All right,
we got
perfect.
one guy back there had his hand up earlier.
Yes. That's amazing. I've never ever gotten asked that question. And I think that's what I love most about acting, is that I can be someone else. This is Daniel on a day-to-day basis. Like, people always wonder, like, what the heck am I on? Like, did I drink a few too many Red Bulls this morning? Like, I don't know. I think I got drop too many times as a baby. you know, the magic about being an actor is that you are completely someone else in that world that you are in, and that you might be able to bring a small glimpse of you into one of these characters, but most of the characters have nothing to do with you. They don't have the same upbringing, they don't have the same family, they don't have the same world sometimes, or the same galaxy. So you have to be able to take Daniel Logan out of that and be able to project a new person and a new character so that it does fit with the people. Could you imagine Boba Fett being me? I'm like, this kid is crazy, dude. Jango Fett need to beat this kid, you know? But I think Boba Fett is completely the opposite to me, and that's why I love playing him. You know, even today, I dress up in my armor, my ESB, and I start feeling him. You know, you can move your head softly and slowly, but he never ever lifted his head up. He always like kind of glid over his chest plate. You know what I mean? So that's a fun part of acting, and which I really love is becoming characters. But it was fun. It was just at times like when I had to do the fart smell face that I'm like, what? But it just worked out perfect. You know, it just gave you that grumpy, you know, look. Because no one wants to smell a smelly fart. That's what I'm like, what the? You know, and that's the perfect Boba face. People ask me, man, you're such a smiley, happy person. Why were you so angry in Star Wars? I said, well, that's my hungry and my tired face. I said, you know, catch me when I'm tired or hungry. That's how I look. But no, Boba was an amazing character to play as a young kid. I think the fact that George actually gave me the opportunity out of the 5,000 kids that I auditioned against, it was a blissful thing. Jeremy Bullock actually, he would tell people the way I got my character was that think about watching 5,000 tapes with just one character and all the other characters you have to audition for too, right? After a couple hundred, George Lucas probably got tired or needed to go to the toilet or something and just like froze on my face, came back from the restroom or lunch and just said, you know what, I'm done watching these tapes, just call this kid, he will do. I'm like, no, Jeremy, I had a little bit of talent too, just a little bit. But thank you guys so much for giving up your time to come and listen to my stories. I hope you enjoyed them. Glad I got to give you a little bit more of an insight of what Star Wars was like to make. And yeah, thanks for coming to Old Comic Con, guys. To tell you the truth, it's you guys that keep coming each year and coming for the first time, which allows us to keep coming back. You know, you can't always get down to San Diego, one of the big ones, but it's nice when they can actually come to you and you can just roll out of bed and come see someone else from a crazy film like Star Wars. So thank you guys and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.